U.S. China move to revive trade talks. Top American and China negotiators are set to speak this week in an effort to revive stalled trade talks, as discord over prior commitments and political considerations threaten to bog down discussions. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to the Group of 20 leading economies meeting in Osaka, Japan in June to formally resume talks. Yet, people following the process note that the issue that snagged the talks 2 months ago remain. Among the sore spots, U.S. demands for China to buy more American agricultural and industrial products and to enforce protection and intellectual property, and China's insistence that the U.S. remove tariffs on $250 billion in Chinese goods. One side or the other can always cave and talks can wrap very quickly, but barring that, Osaka was conflict limitation, not conflict resolution, said Derek Scissors. One side or the other can always cave. Oh, I just said that. A resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute think tank, who has consulted with the U.S. administration. Senior officials from each side, including Robert Lighthizer, the U.S. Trade Representative, are set to speak by telephone this week, a U.S. official said. If successful, that could lead to face-to-face talks, likely in Beijing. People following the talks said. The last round of face-to-face meetings that took place in Washington in May ended in an impasse. Our hope is that both sides will come to the table in earnest as soon as practically possible, said Myron Brilliant, head of international affairs at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. But each side has to consider its own political environment, and there are obstacles to a swift deal being done. At the summit on June 29th, Mr. Trump said he would put aside plans for additional tariffs on about $300 billion in Chinese imports and said he would ease a U.S. blacklist of China's Huawei technologies by allowing U.S. companies to sell some components to Huawei if the exports aren't seen as a security risk. U.S. regulators have yet to offer specifics on how that will be accomplished. In his press conference in Osaka, Mr. Trump also promised relief for U.S. farmers, who have been caught in the middle of the conflict as China slowed its purchase of U.S. soybean, corn, and other products. China is going to be buying a tremendous amount of food and agricultural products, and they're going to start that very soon, almost immediately, Trump said. China, however, has made no official mention of a commitment to purchasing more U.S. agricultural products, and a person with knowledge of the event said Mr. Xi made no such promise during his meeting with Mr. Trump. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said Beijing did make commitments. The Chinese side promised to make immediate and significant purchases of our agricultural products, Mr. Navarro told Fox Business Network on Thursday. Let's see if they keep that promise. Shortly before the president's meeting 2 weeks ago, China purchased 544,000 metric tons of U.S. soybeans, according to U.S. Department of Agricultural data, the largest Chinese purchase since March. Last week, the first ever large-scale sale of rice to China was announced by USA Rice, a trade group of rice producers. A spokesman for China Commerce Ministry sidestepped the question about whether Beijing committed to making future farm purchases. There's huge room for cooperation, spokesman Gao Feng said at a briefing last week. He said China doesn't want to see agriculture trade hurt by the dispute.